Hey everybody! Today we're going to be learning the tutorial for the executive experience of Widgets and Digits. So Widgets and Digits has two game modes. You have the classic mode, which is the recommended starting game mode, and the executive experience. It's intended that this game mode is for more experienced players because it includes both the Worker Wars expansion, which adds a competitive labor market, as well as the Boardroom Battle expansion, which adds powerful game controlling abilities. For this video, it's assumed that you understand the core mechanics of widgets and digits, and we're just going to be focusing on the expansion rule sets. So let's talk about the changes that we can expect as part of the executive experience. The first change is the introduction of workers. You'll notice there's now a labor market section of the marketplace board. There's also this labor bidding and worker break room sections on your player mat. That's all part of the Worker Wars expansion, and I'll explain that in a second. The second change is we're now using a different card deck. So this is the Boardroom Battle card deck, and you'll start to notice these cards with blue borders on them. That indicates they have Boardroom Battle abilities. All right, so now let's talk about Worker Wars. What is the major change here? So previously, in classic mode, you had these labor costs, these worker indicators on each of your stages, and that just simply indicated how much you had to pay in upkeep. Well, in Worker Wars, this now indicates the number of workers you need to be able to run that stage. Workers are indicated by these red worker cubes. This is important because it means that if you don't have enough workers to run a stage, the stage does not run at all. So workers have now become this critical constraining resource. In order to get more workers, we've added a labor bidding and a labor hiring phase that starts the beginning of each quarter. The way it works is in turn order, everyone is going to set a labor bid using these placards in their player section. Your labor bid indicates the amount of money you are willing to pay to hire workers per worker. After we finish setting our labor bids, we will then hire workers from this limited pool of workers that is available each quarter. There will always be 2 workers per player. You will hire workers in bid order. So whoever bid the highest gets first dibs on the market. And then you will hire as many workers as you want, up to all of them, at your bid price per worker. So if I bid $2 and I'm the highest bidder, then I can hire 3 workers for $6, right? Now the risk here is that if you overbid, you're going to end up spending a lot on workers, and you still have to pay them a wage of $1 per worker at the end of the quarter. Now, the other risk is that if you don't bid enough, someone could buy out all the workers and you won't have any workers to hire with. Now, there's still cards you can buy that only require 1 worker and therefore you can use with the baseline stage, but it is a big limiting factor in your ability to scale. So let's see how it works. So I'm the first player here. I have the first mover advantage elephant. That means I get to set my bid first. I can choose any bid 0 to 3 and I select it on my labor bidding section of the board. So to start, I'll go ahead and just bid $1. That means I will pay $1 per worker to hire them. My second player sees that I bid $1 and says, oh, well, I don't really want to hire that many workers. I'm going to bid $0. All right. Since I bid $1, that means I will get to go first. I outbid my opponent, and I will get to hire as many workers as I want for $1 per worker. I can either click the worker cubes here, or I can select hire workers to enter how many workers I would like to hire. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and pick 3 and try to punish my opponent for not bidding higher than me. And my opponent gets to go second. They get as many workers as they want for $0 per worker. So we'll go ahead and pick up this worker. Remember, this bid fee is just the fee to hire them. You will still have to pay wages for every worker in the upkeep stage of your turn. So I'll go ahead and hire a worker here. And now we would proceed with the investing phase like normal. I can buy cards. For example, I can buy this special delivery stork. But notice now the production buttons of my stage have a new color. This red color indicates that I do not have enough workers to run this stage. This is a big issue because remember, if I don't have enough workers, this stage does not run at all. I don't even get the baseline production that I would get if I didn't have the card. So see how normally I would sell $20 no matter what. Since I bought this card and it's not running, I'm actually not going to sell a single widget, and I've severely limited how much money I can make with my production line. Now, the way you staff workers to a card is you select the workers and simply tell them which stage they need to go to. So in this case, I assign my workers to this purple stage, and you can see I now have at least fully staffed my production line. I have enough workers for every stage, and so I'm back to making my normal $20. I still have a bottleneck though. However, I still need to buy some resources to make sure I'm making enough money. So I'll go ahead, pick up a part here so I can at least partially take advantage of some of this capacity. And now I'm back to making money. So that's pretty much it for Worker Wars. You just have to pay attention to worker requirements of cards now, and you have to participate in this bidding and hiring phase that starts off each round. What you'll notice is that it kind of completely changes the incentives of the game. And now some of the more expensive cards that require fewer workers are a lot easier to acquire versus these cheaper cards that require more workers. So it creates a lot of interesting dynamics, and you'll have to play around who currently is dominating the labor market. It's just very important that you pay attention to your production buttons and make sure that you're assigning your workers so you're not accidentally creating holes in your production line. One more thing to remember is that you can always choose to fire workers. You have this option here to fire workers. This basically means that after you've paid them wages, you're not thinking you're going to need workers or as many workers in the next turn. You can choose to fire them so you don't have to pay them wages in the next turn. This is completely optional. It's not something you'll probably do all that often, but if you overhired workers and you realize you're not going to use them all and you want to let some of them go so you don't have to pay them wages next round, you can choose to fire them by hitting this button here at the end of your turn. So the next part of the executive experience is the addition of these Boardroom Battle cards. So these are cards with a blue border, which indicates they have a new ability. For example, this card, Pizza Parties, has the ability that when you sell it, you don't have to pay wages this turn. So, for example, I would click on this card, I would buy it, and in order to activate its ability, I would have to sell it. So if I click on Pizza Parties, it says sell Pizza Parties, which would then trigger its ability. So when I click on it, it might have a fun little animation, like in this case, better than bonuses. We all know that's true, maybe not. And now you can see that my wages are 0 because I sold Pizza Parties this turn. There are 12 different cards, and each one has a different unique ability. So I'm going to quickly go through them so you understand how they work. So here we have the Broken Mineral Analyzer. The way this card works is once you own it, you click on it, and once per turn, it'll draw the top 6 cards of the deck. You can choose 3 to discard, and the remaining 3 will be added on top of the deck. This is really useful because you can take a look at the cards, decide if you maybe are going to want to refresh or not, and set yourself up with a good refresh. Or you can alternatively get rid of the good cards and set up your opponents with a bad starting potential hand. The next card we're looking at is the Canary Actuary. When you own the Canary card, if you are setting a labor bid, you get to pay $1 less than your bid price when hiring workers. So for example, if I set a bid of $1, every worker I hire, I actually pay $0 for. This is really useful for bullying people out of the labor market. You can bid really high so that you always get to go first, but you end up paying a lot less when it comes time to hire workers. The next card that we have here is the dog card. The dog loves to dig. When you discard the dog, so discarding is a new action you can do, which is you forfeit the card's resale value. So it's like I'm selling it, but I don't get this $2. And then the dog gets discarded to the trash, and I can now pick a card from the discard pile that I can buy for half off. So obviously the dog is extremely powerful, especially as the card deck starts to deplete. It gives you a ton of control on which cards you want to pick, and you get it at a very nice discount. Now we're looking at the upgrades for the fabrication stage. The first card we have here is the Invisible Tool Belt. This card's pretty straightforward. It simply protects you from the attacks of offensive cards. There's a couple offensive cards in the game, including Creative Accounting, the Big Red Button, and Sleazy Car Salesman, And if you own this card, you are protected from their effects. The next card we're looking at is the Big Red Button, also known as the Chaos card. The way this card works is once per turn, you can press the big red button and it'll shuffle the deck and draw the top card of the deck. So it's shuffled, so don't even think about trying to rig it with Broken Mineral Analyzer. And depending on what stage that card is, the effect will change. If it is a red or a black stage card, you will steal 2 times the current card refresh cost from the richest competitor. So if it's a first quarter in the game, you'll steal $2 from whoever's the richest. If it's fourth quarter, you'll steal $8, which can be quite a swinging factor. Now, unfortunately, if you draw a purple or a green card, the big red button blows up, of course, and it automatically sells itself, which means you still get the resale value of $4, but you lose your fabrication card. The third card is the Trained Sloth, Speedy. The way Speedy works is when you buy Speedy, you copy the ability of a Boardroom Battle card that is currently in play. So you're going to copy the effect of one of these blue cards, and you basically can copy any blue card that anybody currently owns. You just select it, and it essentially takes its ability on. All right, and now we're going to look at the assembly stage cards. So we've got our buddy Phil, the Phillips head screwdriver. The way he works is he simply gives you a free card refresh each quarter. So once per turn, once per quarter, you click on Phil and you get to refresh for free. That's always nice. The next ability is Pizza Parties. We saw that earlier. So this is on sale. So you have to sell this card for this effect to trigger. But when you sell it that quarter, you don't have to pay wages. So this card is super nice, especially when you combine it with Canary, because you can build up a ton of workers, and then at least one turn you can avoid paying a lot of money. The third card is Spit and Prayers. This one has my favorite animation in the entire game. When you discard it, so again, forfeiting its resale value, you can attach it to another card and increase that card's capacity by 1. So if it's a card that currently can take, 2 parts and turn it into 2 finished goods, if you attach Spit and Prayers to it, it can now take up to 3 parts and turn it into 3 finished goods. This card combines very well with a card like Creative Accounting, or just in general any card that you currently like and really want to boost the capacity of. All right, and now for the retail upgrades. So the first one is Creative Accounting. The way this card works is that for every widget you sell at retail, all your opponents have to pay $1. Not to you, to the bank. Sorry, no stealing. Widget is when you sell a finished good for the full $20. So it's when that finished good passes through the retail stage. And essentially, the more money you're making, the more your opponents are kind of bleeding away. This is a very powerful card, especially when you combine it with a card like Spit and Prayers, which allows you to sell even more widgets through Creative Accounting. It also stacks with the ability of the Sloth card. So if you copy this ability and then you boost Creative Accounting with the Spit and Prayers so that it's selling a bunch of widgets, you can really make everybody bleed a ton of cash. And I know it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but in this game, that $1, $2, $3 bleed can make a huge impact. So this is a super fun card, kind of difficult to get that full combo off, but it's very powerful once you pull it off. Next card, this is the Suggestion Box card. The way Suggestion Box works is that when you have a leftover resource at the end of production, the first or the highest margin leftover resource will be sold for the bottom row value of the marketplace. So for example, if you have a raw material and it would normally sell for $4 because that's the next open slot, if that's your only raw material, it'll automatically sell for $7 instead. So the bottom row marketplace value, that more valuable row. This is a super nice card. You are going to want to plan around having extra resources every single time so that you can take advantage of that extra marketplace value. The third and final card is the Sleazy Car Salesman. Sleazy. Sleazy is one of the most powerful and most challenging to use cards in this game. The way Sleazy works is that when he's discarded, so you have to discard Sleazy to use his ability, you can swap one of your other cards with somebody else's card. So because you have to discard Sleazy to use him, you can never swap for a green card. It's always going to either be a black, red, or purple card. But essentially, you swap cards and you could give them a very cheap, weak card and take their very expensive card. This is actually an extremely powerful ability. It's a little bit of a subtle ability. Maybe at first doesn't seem like it's super valuable, but you'll notice that it is extremely destructive to your opponent and is a big swing factor where you can actually pull in a lot of extra cash. Sleazy's super fun. Definitely recommend you guys playing around with him. Very powerful card. And that pretty much wraps up the Boardroom Battle abilities. So now we've learned the additional rules for Worker Wars. We've learned about our cool card abilities with Boardroom Battle. You can see how these different abilities blend very nicely into the core mechanics of Widgets and Digits to create our combined executive experience. I hope you guys have a lot of fun with it. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to post them in the comments or in the forums. And without further ado, good luck and enjoy the executive experience.